Hi everyone, I'm Lakshmipriya NG19011144 Section C, presenting my final IEP submission, Gender Sensitivity and Economic Development. As you can see, the contents will basically include gender issues in the country, gender-based OLG model, experiments and data conclusion. And also these are two famous women, as you all know, Sunita and Rekha, who have been pro-woman active to find out and finalize what's happening in India against the gender bias and inequalities. Now let us look at some issues in the country. Less than a third of working age women in India have jobs, which is low among the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Participation in the labor force is higher in the South and West India compared to East and North, which may reflect variation in the customs. Participation is also higher in rural and urban areas, and among the poor, the declines with family income and education of the women, but rises again among the highly educated women or in high income families. The poor work of necessity will social norms among higher income groups have a strong impact on participation. Women staying home are often considered to increase a family's social status, explaining part of the negative association between family income and women's economic participation in India. As you can see, here is the gender-based OLG model, which will be dependent on human capital formation, health status, and productivity and government. Now let's move on to some experiments that has been done, and one is improved efficiency of government spending. When the increase in efficiency occurs only with infrastructure investment, the public-private capital ratio rises significantly. As a result, time spent by women in home production drops, whereas time allocated to the market work increases. The graph in the right side shows these statuses. Health status of adult female also improves both because of the time reallocation effect and because of the effect of the higher public capital stock and higher public health spending on the supply. Now let's look at one more experiment that has been done. Reduction in gender bias. The graphs on the right side represent some points like when the government implements measures to improve women's political representation or anti-discrimination laws that lead to a permanent reduction in gender bias against women in the workplace. The changes in savings affect tax revenue and private savings in exactly the same way the public-private capital ratio is not affected much. Women's time allocation and the fertility and the saving rates are not affected substantially either. But higher tax revenues also lead to higher public spending on health, which has a positive effect on health in childhood and female health in adulthood. In the long run, a reduction in gender bias leads therefore to an improvement in the women's health status and an increase in the growth rate of the output. Now, let's look at some conclusions. Some three main conclusions. Policies aimed at fostering women's human capital or at reducing women's time spent in home production do help to promote growth. Targeted cash benefits could have significant effects on health and growth. Secondly, female education by itself may take a very long time to translate into substantial increase in women's bargaining power. Other measures aimed at influencing cultural values and social norms may be needed to speed up the process. Finally, overall composite policy experiments suggest that the potential benefit for India for the simultaneous implementation of a combination of pro-growth, pro-women policies may be substantial, raising participation with a package of pro-growth and pro-women policies and could boost the growth of the rate. For some other minor concluding points, gender equalities in education and employment have helped improve human development by improving life expectancy and gross enrollment and by lowering the infant mortality rates in India. The need for adopting policies to create conditions which would allow both women and men to realize their full human potential and ensure gender parity in human well being is highly required. Special policies and programs have to be adopted so that more women can participate in the labor force. Job quotas for women could be an effective policy to achieve this goal. Implementation of appropriate wage policies could help reduce gender gaps in wage and income. The progress in gender equality has been slow in all structure of power and types of decision making, with power still remaining firmly in men's hands. Indian women represent only 11.8% of Lok Sabha members, 11% of Rajya Sabha, and 18.5% in cabinet. The figures fall far below the processed 33% quota desired in all power structures for women. An attempt to legalize this in India has failed in the past. A predominantly patriarchal environment governs women's lives from birth to death in India, and women face discrimination in terms of social, political, educational, and economic opportunities, resulting in continued dominance of patriarchal practices. There is now an urgent need for a change of these practices so as to allow women to participate productively in the growth process and permit society to fully utilize the talent inherent in women. We know there is a persisting gap in gender equality which is inhibiting economic growth in India as well as reducing human development. Thank you, and here are some references that have truly helped. Thanks again.